there is a range that your body is going to fall under, and it's not my body or Rachel's body. Or even your sister's body or your brother. Like, it's not anywhere that you can see. It's like your body that you have a range that is doable for you. And how are we going to get to that range that is having you living your best, happiest, healthy life? Welcome back to the Thick Thighs Save Lives podcast. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm hungry.
You seen? So we're just gonna dive right into it. I've been in the algorithm of watching the outtakes for people that have been on the news, and that was exactly the clip. Like, there was one girl, she was live, and she was like, I'm so pale. Like, you're live.
Oh, that's classic. I'm also so pale.
And we start, I'm so hungry. Like, so I'm gonna tune in, like, what is this? Like,
I am
is that
so
my inner
hungry.
narrative?
Oh, yeah, no, he's saying much more critical things. That's just my regular.
My goodness,
Uh,
you have a male internet.
yeah, if it's a critic,
Obviously a man.
yeah, none of my sister girls would be being like, "Hey, have you done enough today for the world?" That's only a man saying that.
I was always wondering, like, if everyone has an inner narrator or if, like, I did watch this thing where this guy was talking to his neurodivergent wife, and they were talking about, like, when they're falling asleep, and he was saying, like, "No, no, like, it's quiet." And she was like, "What do you mean? What's your narrator doing?" And he's like, "No, no, like, I'm going to sleep, so it's quiet." And she's like, "Who's telling you to shut off the dishwasher?"
I often think that one of the best uses for socials so far for me anyway has been to be like, wow, there's other people like me,
Yeah.
you know?
Me too. I'm glad you
Because
said that 'cause
sometimes
we've been coming hard on, the use of socials and how to control your algorithms, and there's, like, a ton of, like, with every single thing on the planet, there's good and bad, but, like, there is a lot of, validation that's healthy going on where you can feel like, "Oh, there's other people like me. I'm not this weirdo. Because 'cause you're gonna feel like that. You feel how you feel either way. So, like, if you have other people going like, "Yeah, yeah, me too," you're like, "God, thank God there's
speaking
other
of
people with their narrators."
speaking of validation and narrators, we're going to narrate some validation for you today. If you have ever tried to lose weight and gained it back, or gained it back and then some, or hit a plateau and had just an impossible time losing any more weight, we have got some science today that we want to share that is so relevant and so important that I personally just want to shout it out because it's not about the validation factor here. Well, it is. It is for me because I really like when people can understand the science behind why the complex systems of the body and why it isn't just you slob with no willpower. Like every single time you think it's that, it's not.
Yeah. I love this topic because there has been so much different messaging from the other side that has been so loud and so strong and so prevalent for so long. I'm gonna take the cough drop out.
Okay. How's that cough doing?
It's a work in progress. But there's been so many other messaging to tell you about why you need to lose weight, how to lose weight, calorie deficit, that you just need to diet. And there's a lot of just before all of the things that criticize the type of body that you're in, especially for women. And essentially, this is why we started the podcast talking about this. Need the cough drop back. But, um,
Wait, 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 come back.
this I saw
I
this
spit you out, but I
really
didn't mean it.
I didn't mean it because now we're in a spot. I saw this video of a woman who had come to her wit's end of being, like, frustration with trying to lose weight and have been in the cycle of trying to lose weight for nearly her entire life. She's a woman in her I think she was, like, 40-ish, and she just, like, came on, and she was just, like, hysterical, and she's like, "I understand that I'm in a larger body. You think that I don't know this." And this constant thing of, like, lose weight, just do this thing, just try this diet, and she's like, "I've done that."
Here's what we know about that woman just completely breaking down on camera and saying, like, I've been in this my whole entire life. I've tried every single thing. And it's just, this is so frustrating at this point. Here's what we know. There are a lot of people who can mirror that story and who identify with that story and have been constantly fed the line of, why don't you just eat less and move more? Have you tried eating less and moving more? Are you in a caloric deficit? Like, okay, thank you so much for this groundbreaking information, but it might be that it's a little more complex than that. And I just want to talk a little bit today about the science of the complexities, why we need to stop saying, have you tried a caloric deficit? We've said this from the beginning of the podcast, and you guys that have listened for years now, you know how we feel about that
Saying
advice.
that. Yeah.
But we're going to come correct today with some science that explains why that is just garbage and why we need to dive a little bit deeper and think a little bit harder about weight loss, what it means to lose weight, what it means to keep weight off, what the process there is, and be realistic about the things in the way of that.
Yeah, and just some actual tools though, because like there is a way to be comfortable and confident and healthy and happy in your body without and it's not the things that they're constantly telling you. So one of the things that I wanted to start out with was like some validation with like the actual stats of the people who are able to, I'm going to quote, successfully lose weight and then keep it off, because that's always, like, kind of staggering to me because we kind of isolate ourselves in a sense of, like, I am such a failure because, or I haven't been able to keep up with these diets, and it's just like a personal it's a constant self-fulfilling prophecy of a personal failure and a failure to your willpower, and then the inability to trust yourself, and then wondering why you're not confident and you don't trust yourself. This is like this cycle and how it perpetuates itself in your life and bleeding into everything that you do, every decision you make, and every interaction, your relationships, and how you just think about yourself, it just bleeds into all of those things. So I really want to like acknowledge that for exactly what it is and talk about the fact that stats support the fact that losing weight and keeping it off for more than 5 years is tremendously difficult. On average, 80% of people who lose at least 10% of their body weight will gain it back, and often more, within 5 years. 80%. Like, that's if 80% for anything is a staggering number, right? Like, and we kind of, something that's interesting, particularly about social media too, is like when someone has any of these like significant weight loss journeys, and we look at the small like time period of like how much weight were you able to lose, and then they see them at like maybe their the most weight loss, and then it stops. The journey often stops. We don't see it anymore. It was like, "Oh, you did the thing," and, like, we'll highlight that, like, whatever. We don't look at, like, 5 years after 80% of those people have gained all of that weight back and then some. Why?
Why?
We're gonna
Because
answer that
it's
question.
not, yeah, so if you think that it's lack of willpower,
Just you.
being just you, it's if you think it's any of those things, we're going to dispel that today because there is a why, and we need to address the elephant in the room if we're ever going to achieve any kind of air bunnies, successful and lasting weight loss. Now, there is no question that there are people that need to or want to lose a significant amount of their body fat in order to live a more comfortable life. They
Yeah.
want to be able to do things, and they want to be able to have health markers that are representative of a healthy body. And sometimes that's going to include lowering their body fat percentage. Now, we know this, and then we know that very few people can actually do this long term. So, where we're going to start is just understanding a theory that we're going to throw out there, and it's very much supported by science. It is called set point weight theory. So, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the science behind it and how scientists explain it. We're going to look into why weight loss studies are often flawed and why that data is sometimes not usable and what kind of data we can use. And then we're going to finish off with the commonalities of that small percentage of people who are able to achieve, air bunnies, that long-term weight loss. What are they doing differently that
Mm.
the other 80% of people are not doing, if anything? So how can we sort of break the system and work towards a more positive, lasting fat loss?
Yeah, I just want to highlight that part of it a little bit because when we look at the numbers of like 80% of people end up gaining the weight that they lost back and then some, it seems like, oh my God, well, what are we doing? Like, you guys are telling me that this is not possible. We're not telling you this is not possible. Historically, the modalities to get to weight loss have been broken. We all know that. So if we continue to do what we've always done, we'll get what we always got. So the thought here is what we know is what we've always done is calorie deficit, move more, shame people in larger bodies. Call call them lazy, call it willpower,
So
not
far,
recognize.
not so good.
Mhm. Not recognize any set point weight, not recognize that w it's so weird because we accept this in other ways, like, we accept the fact that, like, people have certain body types, right? Like, are you a pear-shaped? Are you this or that? You look different. We accept these in many different ways. However, when it comes to weight loss, we don't accept the fact that some people are going to live in a larger body and some people are prone to living in a smaller body. That is what the fact is, and, like, just in our specific society of what we're talking about here, one of those has gained privilege. That's not even everywhere. That's not universal at all, but, like, in the society that we live in, being in a smaller body tends to be the ideal of what we're looking for. Now, this podcast is about health. So we're gonna talk about health, and we're gonna talk about weight loss as a part of health because we know a lot of people would benefit. They know personally that if they um, lost some body fat, that they would live in a healthier environment for their life. Because essentially, like, your body is your environment. So let's talk about set point weight theory.
So I'm really glad that you started us off with that because this is not a matter of aesthetics. And it's never going to be a matter of aesthetics on this podcast. This is about achieving health markers that will allow you to live longer, to live more limit free. This is not about trying to achieve a smaller body so that you can fit in, because that's never what health has been about. So
No, and
I just
isn't
want
it?
to backlight that with, because we're going to talk a lot about weight loss here,
Yeah.
and I just want to backlight that with what what the end goal of weight loss is. in my mind, when I'm giving advice on it, is improved health. That's the goal, whatever that
Mhm,
looks like.
mhm, mhm. I just think sometimes, like, it's so important to think about, like, the different body sizes and giving the respect that a lot of these healthy, larger bodies deserve because it's incredible. Like, it's amazing that, like, we can just, in general, look at specifically women in larger bodies who are doing amazing things, like running these ultra marathons, doing push ups, like doing these specific health markers that we know are signs of a healthy, functioning body. Contains a good amount of muscle, good amount of muscle mass, endurance, all these things. And because they're in a larger body, we assume that is a direct reflection of the health that they're experiencing. And it's just like, when is this going to end?
Hopefully, with this episode
This
today,
episode.
when we
I'm so glad.
explain set point weight theory, what we're talking about is basically the human body trying to maintain its weight within a preferred range. Now, this has some caveats, but in general, I think the best way to think of set point weight theory is to think of it as homeostasis, right? The body, and we accept this pretty much universally. The body
Everywhere else.
likes, right? The body likes homeostasis. It when we think about a predetermined weight or fat mass in a set point range, we're talking about the body resisting any deviations to maintain that actual set point, right? So, like, it's not just going to tell you, hey, you really want McDonald's. There are actual biological things at play here. There are also psychological things. We'll talk about those too. But there are biological things here where your body is telling itself that it wants to maintain homeostasis. And that is regardless of what your health markers are currently at, right? So, like, we can say, well, how would your body want to maintain, markers that would put you in an obesity category, right? But homeostasis doesn't work like that. It's just your body saying, you
Wait,
know,
your body's homeostasis didn't adhere to a measurement done hundreds of years ago to not determine a correct body mass? Are you serious?
I mean, it's almost shocking, but not at all. Um, so basically, the theory is suggesting that a person's weight set point is established early in their life and it will maintain relatively stable unless it can be altered. So I want people to understand this isn't like there is genetics involved, but it's not unchangeable genetics. It's not like the size of your nose, right? That's unchangeable genetics. There's nothing you can do. There's no amount of anything that will change the genetics in the shape of your face, right? But set point weight theory refers to the fact that you are given a certain amount of genetics with a range of where your body will feel comfortable weighing. And then from there, there are some changeable things, but everybody does start with a set point and they are different. So that's where we really need to focus on the genetics part of it is that we're
Well,
all being handed a different set of cards.
if if we weren't, every baby would come out the same way. Like, sometimes when we break these things down, these theories can seem like really complex. Like, we can talk about hormones, we can talk about environment, we can talk about genetics. We can definitely we're going to break these things down for sure. But like from a baseline standpoint, understanding that every baby comes out at a different size, we can very much understand that like our starting point is very different.
It seems so obvious,
I was
and
like a
we
5-pound
so
baby.
I know, it's like, it seems so obvious, and it seems like, why would there be any evidence to suggest otherwise? That a significant part of where your predetermined weight range is gonna be is genetic. I mean, we
For
accept
sure.
that for so many other functions of our body. We accept that for even things like, you know, okay, you have predetermined genetics that just predispose you to things like heart disease or breast cancer. And we have, like, certain genetic markers that we can name and say, you have this genetic marker. We are going to therefore need to look out for heart disease. Now, does that mean there's 100% chance that you die of a heart attack? No. You could get hit by a bus. But it means that your body is predisposed to that kind of, I guess, Achilles heel. And we need to accept that universally, that some people will have a much more difficult time maintaining a lower body mass than other people. That's just a fact, and it just has to do with their genetics.
Mhm.
We're interrupting this podcast to tell you about the coolest leggings that have ever been on the planet ever. And if you are going to try to crush this new year, you need them. Why are you laughing? You
You sounded like that kid. Have you ever had a dream where
need
Have you ever tried the best leggings and then they are sweat-proof?
No, it's so true. Sweat proof, squat proof. They are so freaking comfortable, and they have pockets. If you're listening to this podcast and you're not currently wearing our leggings, I gotta tell you, you are missing the boat, sis.
You're missing the boat, and the thing is, most people don't know as they start to get new leggings that not all leggings are created equal,
Ooh.
and you don't know that your leggings are see-through until you've been wearing them for a month at the gym and someone gets up the courage to tell you that they've been seeing through. Our leggings never see through, completely squat proof, sweat proof, and they stay up while you're working out. So grab a pair for this new year at constantlyvariedgear.com. So, do you want to talk about some of the other factors that change throughout your life that are some of these points within your life that this could change? Because like we do understand that our bodies continue to change and evolve throughout our lives, and there are certain points that will contribute to this: hormones, your metabolic behavior, your environmental behavior, and any of the kind of life events that will happen: childbirth, menopause, aging, um, a disease, any type of illness. These are things that will happen, may happen. Well, for some, the menopause and aging, it can happen for everybody. But those things are definitely going to happen. Now, if you've noticed, women have a couple more of these markers that are going to impact their genetic makeup significantly more than men.
So, important to just start off with is, you're not going to have one set point weight throughout your life. You're going to have several,
Yeah.
right? So, this
Which is
is,
the weird, like, get back to high school weight.
that's why
Just gonna call back to that real quick.
that phrase is just so, and you're right, because there is a set point weight for your high school body that your body feels comfortable and easy to maintain. And when you're 40, that's just not the same. There have been so many, like you said, environmental, hormonal, metabolic changes that are going to change your set point weight. And not only is that natural, but that's common. So I just want to say, like, I just want to put out there that even if, you were sort of a thinner child and you had no trouble with your weight throughout most of your teen years, most of your 20s, you could eat whatever you wanted, you didn't gain weight, and then you see a notable difference. This is not, you're not broken. You have probably just changed your set point weight. And we're going to talk about the factors that are that are going to go into that. So hormones is a major factor in changing your set point weight because our behaviors around food are very much controlled by hormones. A lot of people think it's controlled by willpower, but there are actual hormones going on, and they're running rampant in your hypothalamus, and they are telling you when to eat and when to stop eating. And, you know, if you want to be sciencey, there's actually two pathways that handle like your appetite. There's the orexigenic pathway and there's the anaorexigenic pathway. So one makes you hungry, one says you're full. There are specific hormones that go along with each. I think we've talked about ghrelin in a on a past podcast. It's like the hunger. We call it a gremlin. Some people sometimes call it a
Mm.
gremlin because it's like that's the hormone that tells, it binds to receptors and forces the appetite hormone. And then we've got like leptin and others that are come in and kind of like say, okay, we're going to decrease your appetite. We're going to say, you're full. When a person experiences any kind of weight loss, scientists have observed measurable increases in the amount of hormones that are released in your hunger pathway. And as if that's not bad enough, drops in the hormones that signal a decrease in your appetite. So there are hormonal factors behind why you are hungrier when you diet. You're not making it up. You're not crazy. We are measuring these hormones and we are saying when a person experiences weight loss, their body compensates. It tries to maintain its homeostasis by saying, release the hunger hormones. And they all come like with their pitchforks, Kelsey. And the decrease of appetite hormones, you're going in the closet. And food preferences also mirror that, right? So if your body is saying release the hunger hormones, what do you think it's going to crave if it's wanting to increase your caloric intake? It's going to crave higher fats, higher sugars, higher caloric foods. Like it's just trying to maintain and restore homeostasis.
Yeah, I think when we talk about hormones, honestly, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the fact that any type of trauma that you experience in your life has a significant effect on the hormones that are released in your body. So it doesn't even need to be any of these, like what you would consider to be a major body life event. It can be a traumatic event that you've experienced. And because of that trauma, you have the release of different hormones, cortisol being one of them, going on in your body is going to signify some different, um, going to signify some changes in your body, and then of course you respond. And any type of change like that that your body is responding to, its only thing that it wants to do is to keep you alive.
Just return to homeostasis. Try to think of it like,
And what is it doing though? It's not growing your hair, it's not growing your
no,
fingernails, it's not looking at your skin, it's not looking at the excess body fat that you have. It's saying like reproductive organs, how are you doing? Brain, how are you doing? Like it is going to basic body functions. And like if you are in a survival mode, which happens so much when it not just with trauma, but when people start to go on these type of diets. If you go into that type of survival mode and then you want to kind of like maximize how your body's performance is going, it's like, well, we're not at maximum, we're surviving here.
I'm so glad you brought that up about, the trauma response because we can measure and we have measured what happens to certain hormone levels when someone experiences weight loss. But you're so right. It would be totally half the story if we didn't talk about the stress response, lack of sleep. Like All of those are factors. And that's why we're always, in the full, we're trying for the trifecta,
Yeah.
mind, body, spirit, because they are all so intertwined. And when you have this imbalance in hormones, as you experience when you lose any weight, or when you have a traumatic event, or when you're experiencing just chronic stress or chronic lack of sleep, these things are going to affect it. And you started to talk a little bit about adaptive thermogenesis, and I'm so glad that we have a term for this now, because
Yeah.
we had people starting to say things like your body's in survival mode, you're in starvation mode, and then of course the clapbacks of you can't possibly be starving at 320 pounds, that's not starving, and so all of the things that you're saying are irrelevant. We finally have this universally accepted, I think, health and fitness. Everybody understands adaptive thermogenesis and they accept it as fact. It's a thing finally. So we don't have to say starvation mode anymore, because that just wasn't working for some reason.
It wasn't working because people can't it's it's continuing to shame larger bodies is what it's doing. That's what its basis is. Because people can't seem to wrap their head around the fact that if they're looking at something, they're looking at the size of someone's body and they have predetermined the fact that like, well, you could just lose body fat. It's like, no, that's you have no idea what's happening in their body, what their health markers are. Like you just don't. And the idea the fight against what was first coined as starvation mode was really just an attempt to invalidate the idea that if you just went into a caloric deficit, you would lose more body fat. Like, it was really just looking to, like, support that idea and invalidate the actual experiences of people who are attempting to lose body fat.
And science.
Yeah.
This is not just like we're trusting that you said you ate what you said you ate, because of course there's that whole thing of like, are you sure? What about your bites? And we've talked about that in a previous episode, like the
Um,
harm that comes with saying stuff like that.
yeah.
But it really was just ignoring the science though too,
Mm,
because again, homeostasis is all the body is trying to achieve. If you think of it kind of like your temperature. I
yeah.
like using that one, because
Mhm.
like, okay, your body's trying to be 98.6 degrees. Are you always going to be 98.6 degrees? No. But if you start falling somewhere far outside that, your body will do everything in its power to either raise your temperature or lower your temperature. Everything it possibly can. Same thing when we're trying to explain like adaptive thermogenesis. We're talking about if your body is recognizing a negative energy balance, which is basically a caloric deficit. That's all it is. It is the bank is on in the red, right? Okay, we
Mhm.
have not enough energy, not enough calories for the things that we need to do. Your body is going to say, well, we've got the plan. We're going to adapt. We're going to reduce our expenditure. This is brilliant, honestly. It's literally brilliant that your body can do this. We're going to take all non essential energy expenditure out of the picture. So we'll keep your brain function on. You can have that. Don't want you to literally go brain dead. So we'll leave that on. But your resting energy expenditure, whatever you're burning for calories when you're at rest, you're awake, but you're not doing anything strenuous. This makes up a large portion of your day. We're going to shut that down. We're going to lower it, because obviously we're in the negative here. We need to restore some funds in the bank. And that's not really that essential. Whatever you're doing when you're resting, that caloric expenditure, we can afford some there. So we'll lower it. That is adaptive thermogenesis. And one thing that I just a side note,
I know. I love
here's my plug for lifting. my weekly plug for you must lift the weights. And I'm not joking. Did you know that when it comes to resting energy expenditure, skeletal muscle consumes about 20% of that REE, when as opposed to adipose, which is your fat tissue, only consumes about 5%. So your body at rest, not doing anything strenuous, just sitting there. If you have a ton more muscle mass, that's a way larger percentage of what you burn resting than what fat will burn while it's resting.
I don't know how many times I can say this, but I'm gonna just keep doing it
Keep going.
because the more muscle that you maintain, the higher likelihood that you will maintain a lower body fat percentage. Your body is working hard to maintain that muscle. The fact is, like we really that's not even just a side note. If you're going to talk about your metabolism, if you're going to talk about your metabolic rate, there's no point that we can talk about our metabolic rate or our even like our resting energy expenditure. There's no time that we can talk about that and not talk about muscle mass because it is 25%. Like, come on. Like, that is a significant percentage at resting. And I just want to say, like, when you talk about going into a caloric deficit and the, your resting energy expenditure going down. So that's not even your time in the gym, right? So we're talking about all of your energy levels, all of the movement that you have when you are resting. And you can think about this with people who have, a higher resting metabolic or a higher resting metabolic rate. So they're usually like talking with their arms, they move, they fidget, they do all these things. People that have a higher energy level, me for I have a very high energy level, moving all the
Mm-hmm.
time. But the fact is that like you go into this caloric deficit where your expectation for yourself is to move more generally. So we go into a caloric deficit and we want to increase our expenditure at the same time. We want to start working out. We want to maintain a healthier lifestyle, go for more walks, lift more, whatever. At the same time as we're lowering the energy that we're putting in, we expect the energy output to increase. Does anyone wonder why this might not be set up for success? I'm just
Alarm
wondering.
your body? Okay, that's not homeostasis. That is okay, if we were to take the, 98.6 degrees example again, that'd be doing a cold plunge while you're in the Arctic. Okay? No. You can do a cold plunge, right? Or you can go in a sauna, but you wouldn't want to simultaneously be in a freezing environment or do a sauna when you're in a desert. That's basically what you're putting your body through homeostasis wise when you try to increase your energy expenditure with exercise and simultaneously lower your caloric intake. It's a
So we
lot.
wonder,
It's out of balance.
it's out of balance. We wonder why we feel more tired, more sore. No, and that's not even, it's not in your mind. That's one of the things like I constantly want to tell people because I'm like, when you have someone come in, say you're a attorney, you work with people or you just started working out, and you start to go into a caloric deficit, you start to work out and you say, like, I'm really sore, like debilitatingly sore. More than the normal people. Yes, that's correct.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Yes, you are. Like, it's not like you're just a weakling who can't handle the soreness or like anything like that. Like, your body is not, first of all, it doesn't have any practice into restoring that type of muscle that you're working. And your energy levels is already really low. So it's working to just maintain what you've been doing. We don't have any extra here, but you're adding in a whole bunch of extra, but giving us less.
So, the one thing that I really want to talk about when we're discussing this adaptive thermogenesis, I just want to say that not only is that resting, because like, I think that's mostly understood that it's going to affect your metabolic rate, but I don't think people know quite how much. And I think that if we can just, oh, and not only that, but I also want to bring up the fact that it has effects on your thyroid as well as your ability for your muscle to use calories at rest. Because if you are going to experience any kind of weight loss, we are going to have things come into play that there's a whole bunch of science, but basically it's leptin that is the issue here. Um, we're seeing that you're going to have a reduction in thyroid activity, so like a low T3. And what that can do, as well as a decrease in your sympathetic system and the activity of your skeletal muscle thermogenesis. So basically, when I just said, oh, muscles are so great, they're so hungry, they eat so many calories, 20% of your resting energy. When you experience weight loss, your body also says, like, chill, 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 chill for anything regarding extra burning, even for your muscles. So it will take, this is why we don't try to gain muscle in a deficit, because that's very, very difficult because of the fact that your body is going to take from whatever it can, and it will take from your muscles. So I just want people to understand that we don't even know how long this is going to take effect. So let's say we have a person that weighs, we have two people that weigh 200 pounds, right? Okay. One person requires X amount of calories to stay at 200 pounds. No, oh, sorry. We need to do one person weighs 220, one person weighs 200. They have the amount of calories that are going to keep them at that weight. Now, if the 220 person loses 20 pounds and we are going to look at their total energy expenditure, it's probably going to be down an average of about 25%. So, in order to stay at that deficit, they're going to need to eat 25% less or burn 25% more than their previous weight at 220 just to stay at 200. And we don't know how long that is going to last. Their metabolic rate is going to be lower. It's going to be harder for them to just maintain the same 200 pounds that the other guy started at. They're going to need to eat, or they're going to need to be way more perfect. And even if they weren't perfect, they're going to have to be lower to start with. So it's just, that's one of the things that when it comes to weight loss is really hard for people to wrap their head around, is when they lose that weight, is it harder to keep it off? Yes, 100%. And
Mhm.
is it also going to be a race to the bottom calorically, because you're already going to need to have less calories than someone your same exact weight who didn't lose that 20 pounds just to maintain?
I think that's really validating for a lot of people who sit with other people. I'm eating the same. I do the same workouts. We don't weigh the same. We don't look the same. Why?
Why?
And yeah, and they try to, you know, they can put like genetically some parts, but like looking at what that actually looks like, and then just putting that back into your own life of like looking at another person and what they eat, what they consume, what they do in a day is honestly irrelevant to what you should be consuming within a day, because your body is not going to, like, we just know, like, your body is not going to do the same. So like, let's drop the shame of like me and you can eat the same thing throughout the day and our bodies are still going to look different. Our expenditure is still going to look different. How our body like is able to maintain that body weight is going to be different.
Even me and you are
Yeah.
actually a perfect example,
Yeah.
because we have similar genetics but not the same, because we're not identical twins. We carry body weight in different places. We have varying, I don't want to, I'll put it in quotes, difficulties with loss and gain in certain areas, just in general in all areas. That is because
Yeah.
we have somewhat different genetics, and we have different set point weights. So it's like, you know, when and that doesn't even account for loss and gain in our life, right? So, like, you know, these are all, there's so many things like to line up and be like,
Mm,
hey, this is why we're all different, right? But like at the same time, we know that genetics play a major factor, but like environment is also going to play a major factor. Just to like touch upon the identical twin thing for a minute, they have done studies on identical twins to see how much genetics plays a factor when it comes to loss and gain. And we've had identical twins, overfed and underfed, and then we've had like a bunch of them in this study. And the amount they've been overfed and underfed the exact same amount of calories across the board, right? But the gains and the losses were extremely different among the set of twins, but not among the twins themselves.
mm,
Okay, so am I explaining that right? So basically, we're gonna take 5 sets of twins, all different genetics, but I mean, all the sets of twins have different genetics, but obviously the twins are identical. We're going to overfeed them 350 calories extra per day. Set 1 twins gained 5 pounds. Set 2 twins gained 2 pounds. Set 3 twins gained 14 pounds. All different. We overfed them the exact same amount of calories. Why did they all gain differently? Well, they didn't gain differently among the twins. So the 2 twins that are identical gained about the same across. And that just shows you the role that genetics are playing when it comes to how fast we gain weight, how easy it is to take it off, how much more we have to struggle than someone else. You know, people don't gain weight at the same rate, but if you take identical twins, you can see that they actually do.
yeah. Yeah. So that's why it's even crazier to try to replicate something with someone that is not the same. But going from, genetics and talking about environmental factors, because these environmental factors play a significant role in determining your set point weight. Now, of course, your environment can change throughout your life, and so can your set point weight within a certain range. But talking about your environment is extremely important because your environment includes chronic stress, exposure to environmental chemicals. Um, I just did a deep dive on environmental chemicals recently, so I'm hot on it with
Yeah.
like the where you geographically live and your it obviously impacts the type of food that you're eating. So if you're eating, a ton of seafood and just the certain levels that you're exposed to, or if you grow up in an environment where there is you've had some water damage, mold, things like that have such a significant impact on not only your hormone levels, your stress levels, how sick that you are feeling, and then how your gut is actually absorbing your nutrients. So I know that's like a broad overview, but all of those things play such a significant role in how you're going to absorb your nutrients, therefore, how you're going to carry your body fat. And that is, there's a large range of things there that are obviously included in your environment. But what are some of the things that you grew up eating more of? If you grow up in some of middle America, you don't have quite as much seafood, your predisposition to some of those chemicals essentially is just going to be different. Maybe you had a lot of red meat, very different exposure. Um, and then socioeconomic status, of course, is a major factor in what is going to contribute to your set point weight. Sedentary lifestyles, um, obviously, we can see these lifestyle changes within a family dynamic or within the environment that you grow up in. And that's not just, people eating the same food. It's the lifestyle that from birth or a young age that you're exposed to. Where if you are exposed to a more sedentary lifestyle, where, there's a lot of games, TV, things like that, where the things that you do together are revolving around food, and just kind of like large food gatherings and large sitting, or if you grow up in a family that's like, kind of active, or like your parents are going to the gym, bringing you to the gym, you go to hikes, things like that. These are just very much a large influence on the environment that you grow up in and contributing to your set point weight.
Absolutely. So, pretty much your genetics start you off, and then your environment takes the wheel at that point. And so, we can see so many different combinations of that. We can see people that are genetically predisposed to carrying larger amounts of fat and then are raised in a sedentary family with a socioeconomic status that does not allow for a significant amount of healthy foods, and then we just see we it's
Lower
really.
nutrient levels, then you can see like what are some of those environmental factors that might be. I'm just on this big, like, what's within the pipes or within,
Yeah.
mold and all of those things, like, and that they have found for each person can affect each one of them individually. So a family living in the same environment that is affected essentially by the same mold is what they were looking at. Um, each person, it affected their markers, their hormonal markers, and how it was affecting their gut health differently. It's like even within that family setting and being exposed to the same things, each person is going to respond a little bit differently.
That's incredible. And also, like you said, very validating. Um, so, can we override set point weight? I know that is the question, and I want to address it because it is one where people are kind of like, okay, so I understand that it's not like the size of my nose. It is changeable, it does change throughout my life. But what do I need to do in order to be at a healthy place for me, where I'm not constantly fighting my body that wants to stay in homeostasis of wherever we've been.
Well,
First
this is
thing
the
I
really exciting part. This is the
This is
really
exciting.
exciting part of the podcast because we've gone over what your set point weight is. We've gone over why 80% of people are going to return to the previous place that they lost weight from. So we've talked about the fact that, like, if this is you, you're not an outlier. This is a real thing. These are the reasons why, and they are definitely contributing. However, it is possible for you to get to a weight or to get to a body composition that is healthy for you and that is promoting a healthy lifestyle and that carries a lower body fat percentage than perhaps you currently have.
So
Exciting.
exciting. So
But
exciting, and the best part of the podcast.
but wait, can we say like what it's not first? Speak just to like summarize it. We really have to stop doing what we've always done with these chronic dieting that we have literally spent 45 minutes telling you have failed. Science has agreed it they failed. So like let's stop doing those. Let's sit back a little bit and talk about maybe what is your set point weight? Like, and not, I don't want you to do that with a number. I want you to just recognize that there is a variation, there is a range that your body is going to fall under, and it's not my body or Rachel's body. Or even your sister's body or your brother. Like, it's not anywhere that you can see. It's like your body that you have a range that is doable for you. And how are we going to get to that range that is having you living your best, happiest, healthy life?
I think most people um, have a good idea of where
Okay.
their natural set point weight is. I think that if you ask them, what their ideal, maybe they say, okay, it was high school or something. But I
God.
think that most
Child.
people have a general sense of where their body feels comfortable being, where they don't have to be in a massive deficit. They don't have to be working out 6 days a week, that their body feels good, healthy, comfortable, can do the things that it wants to do. Without discomfort. I think most people have that in their mind. So if you are thinking of yours right now, how let's first talk about how we deviate outside of that and then how we can get back in if we have deviated outside. Most people alter their set point weight extremely slowly. They are spending a good majority of the first half of their life hovering around their natural genetic set point weight, right? And unless any environmental factors have been significant, right? If they have experienced um, chronic stress, trauma early on in life, that is going to deviate it. But most people spend the good majority of the first half hovering around there. And then what happens is very slowly, we have a gradual weight gain over the years. We have people moving to more sedentary lifestyles as they start their profession. We have people maybe gaining 20 pounds over 2 decades, let's say, like a pound a year, right? That is the most common way to alter your set point weight because basically you are doing it so slowly that your body can barely notice. It doesn't really set, because there are mechanisms that it will, I don't want to make it sound unfair. There are also mechanisms that it sets out if you are deviating in the wrong direction, in the gaining direction, right? Like your body will fight back against that too. When we've seen studies of people being severely overfed, their resting energy, their like fidget energy went way up. And that was their body's attempt at being like, whoa, 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 we have an excess here and we want to stay in homeostasis. It's working both ways. I just don't want to make people think it's just working against you. That's not really fair. But when you do it really slow and gradual, your body doesn't really notice. All of a sudden, you're up, not all of a sudden, 20 years in, you're up 20 pounds, and that is your new set weight. And you look at yourself in the mirror, you go, whoa, I'm 20 pounds heavier than I was when I was 30. This is not working for me. I'm going to drop all this weight. Hell no, you ain't, bitch. Because your body is saying, we've reached a new set point weight. We've maintained this for years now, and we're going to make this difficult on you because essentially we're defending this new weight as a set point. So just recognizing that it happened slowly is your first step into understanding the best way to return to your set point weight. I'm sorry guys, but it's slowly.
I said this was the exciting part of the podcast, and I know that feels like that may not be the most exciting thing, but honestly, for me, when it comes to like figuring out what actually is the answer that isn't going to put you in the 80% of people that return to their weight, the weight gaining back the weight that they lost, and then some. So staying out of that 80% is doing it slowly, is making is getting away from making these immediate changes that are so drastic and setting the expectation to be so drastic, then rewarding yourself if you've met that expectation, knowing that you're going to fall in the 80% of people that's going to gain that weight back and then some. So looking at it from a change from a different lens of, it's taken me years to gain this weight. It may take me years to lose some of the weight. However, I'm going to be able to keep it off and maintain a lifestyle and a body composition that actually works for me. And that's why I really want people to get away from weighing themselves and putting at their set point weight, is to being like this arbitrary number that no one even understands, if we're being completely honest. We did a whole episode of like what a 125-pound person could look like if you're thinking about someone who is like at their peak, or they could be very sickly and old, and now they're very frail, or a 150-pound woman, and thinking of Serena Williams and the amount of muscle mass that she carries, like, there is I think she's a 170, undershot her a little bit, but, um,
Sorry, sis.
lose sorry, sis. Lose the idea that you're and we're saying set point weight, but we're saying this in a way of, like, it's not exactly a number that you're looking to get back to or to lose within a certain period of time. The idea here is to make some of these changes with the idea that we are going to move in a slower direction, but in a sustainable one.
If you go back, rewind to Kelsey's statistics, she specifically said the 80% is people who lose 10% of their body weight or more. If you want to break that wheel, what you need to do, scientifically approved, is your body will accept about a 10% weight loss before it begins putting measures in place to try and maintain your set point weight, try to maintain homeostasis. It'll accept about 10%. So when we say do this slowly, what we mean is we're not crash dieting to lose 20 pounds in 20 days. That's when your body goes into complete destruction and is like, holy shit, we've got to send out the troops.
We didn't really, like, I know we've mentioned this, but we didn't really talk about the fact that those are actually some of the disrupting factors to your hormones and to your metabolic rate that is so destructive to your body that ends up working against you in the future. Every time you crash diet, every time you go into these things where you're like significant disruption to your body's function, where you just expect it to, like, you just stop giving it any energy, like, you just go on these insane crash diets that are so disruptive to all of your other hormone levels, your stress levels, your sleep. We talk about the keto flu. Like, these are significant events in your body that is actually working long term in the other direction.
To
It's working
you,
against you.
it might have been, a way to look great in a bathing suit on a cruise, but to your
Yeah.
body, it's going to maintain a lower metabolic rate for who knows how long. We don't actually know how long it's going to function, where in order for you to stay at a certain weight and for someone else to stay at a certain weight needs two drastically different amounts of energy expenditure. So it's just so, I think that if people understood the future damage, then it would be a little bit easier to say, like, I'm not gonna do that. I
Mm.
don't want to have to eat 300 less calories for the rest of my life just to stay right here. Like, that's not it. So if you can think about this in terms of how slow it went on, and that's how slow it needs to come off, likely you can override that statistic of being that weight gain coming back and then some. You just need to stay sort of realistic with your time frame and realistic with the amount, right? So if we can think about this in terms of a percentage, you want to stay below 10%, and you do not, and that doesn't mean it doesn't mean that like you can only lose 10% of whatever you have right now. That's not that. What
6 months.
Just stay there for 6 months, right? Okay. If you're going to lose 10%, stop right there and then stay there for 6 months. Allow your metabolism to readjust, allow your body to decide this is the new homeostasis to maintain, and allow all the functions of your body to center around this new set point weight for at least 6 months before you go then and try to lose any more, right? That's the key. That's what scientists are saying. your body will accept changing its set point weight, but you cannot do it in a way that makes it panic, basically. You have to do it in a
Yeah.
slow, methodical kind of way that keeps it always in a virtual homeostasis, because under 10%, there's no panic going on, right? It's not a starvation mode situation. It's under 10%. We have a little less than we had, but we can adjust. And that's how we maintain the homeostasis. So, if you are gaining anything from this, muscle is a commonality. Building muscle is a commonality that people, that 20% of people that are able to maintain their weight loss, they all are including weight training. So, not losing drastic amounts of weight all at once, including weight training in an effort to raise that metabolic rate when it's going to naturally lower, and then taking the focus off the scale, like Kelsey said. It's so much better to not set a number. It needs to be a marker that isn't on the scale, because better nutrition and increased physical activity are always going to better your health markers. Always, 10 times out of 10. It doesn't matter whether the scale is moving drastically. If you are eating better and moving more, you are always going to be healthier. So take the scale out of it and determine your success, not in a goal weight.
Yeah. I'm so glad you wrapped it around to that because I think that a lot of this information can feel overwhelming for a lot of people and make them wonder what is my set point? Like where is the range? Like I have been, out of it. Maybe I've never felt great with within my environmental factors. Where was the first traumatic event? Like a lot of people are just like I am overwhelmed by this information, but the simple when you water it down, there is a simple fact here that when you prioritize health as the number one goal and really take out what what the weight is, what your body may look like when that like those can be side effects of health. What does a healthy body look like for me? You'll find out if you feed it healthy things, if you have healthy movement, if you maintain a healthy lifestyle. If you put those things in place, then we will find out what a healthy body looks like for you. But it has to have these other things, right? Like drink plenty of water, eat nutritious food, move well, lift weights. Like but, like, put the focus on those things that matter, and you'll find out that, like you find out what a healthy body looks like
And
for you.
it's
That's
not going to look
realistic.
like mine, because genetically we are not the same. I don't have any
Mm-mm,
identical twins that I know about out there. So I have a
mm-mm,
unique makeup here, and I'm going to look like what I'm going to look like. But at the end of the day, nutritious food, plenty of movement, that that is health. Plenty of sleep, plenty of hydration.
mhm,
Like we have to bring it back to health always, because that's always what it's going to be about. And you said it so well. Um, so even though there's a certain amount of genetics at play here, even though we have evidence that your body will try desperately, in fact, to maintain homeostasis wherever you are at in your set point weight journey, um, the shame, the stigma, the frustration that comes with this being some kind of play on your willpower, it just needs to go away, and we need to bring the markers back to health. And that is going to look like on you in your body composition, I cannot wait to see. Honestly, I cannot wait.
mhm, mhm.
We
Me
love you
too.
guys.